The world you see is not as solid as you think. It bends to your awareness. This audiobook unveils the ancient truth that reality is not happening to you, but responding to you. As you listen, you'll learn how to tap into this hidden force and shape your life with precision. The secret is already within you. Now it's time to awaken to it. Introduction. In the depths of time, a sacred knowledge has flowed like an eternal river through the consciousness of those who dared to question the nature of existence. This ancient wisdom, passed down through generations of mystics and sages, reveals a profound truth. The universe operates according to precise spiritual laws that govern all of creation. You stand now at the threshold of revelation. The very fact that these words have found their way to you speaks to an intelligence far greater than chance. For in this moment, you have been called to awaken to your true power, a power that has always resided within you, waiting to be recognized. What lies before you is not merely information, but transformation. These pages contain the crystallized essence of universal truth, distilled through centuries of spiritual understanding. As you move through these teachings, you will discover that every circumstance in your life, every joy and challenge, has emerged from the invisible realm of thought and energy. The reality-bending principle you are about to encounter transcends simple manifestation. It reveals how the fabric of existence responds to your innermost beliefs, perceptions, and vibrations. This is the hidden mechanism behind what many call destiny, a force that you have unknowingly wielded since the moment of your birth. The signs have always been there, whispering in the language of synchronicity and intuition. Those moments when you felt something more at work, when coincidence seemed too perfect to be random, these were glimpses of the greater truth. Now you stand ready to pull back the veil and see existence as it truly is. This knowledge comes with responsibility. For once you understand the laws that shape reality, you can no longer hide behind ignorance. You become conscious of your role as a creator, as an architect of experience. The journey ahead will challenge everything you believe about the nature of reality. But remember, you were drawn to these words because your spirit recognized their truth. Part 1. Breaking the Illusion. Chapter 1. The world is not what you think it is. In the quiet streets of London, where time itself seemed to dance to the rhythm of countless ticking clocks, lived a watchmaker named Elliot. His world was one of precision and certainty, where every gear and spring followed immutable laws. Yet as autumn leaves began to fall in 1932, the fabric of his reality started to unravel. First, it was the brass pocket watch on his workbench, the one he distinctly remembered fixing the previous day. Now it lay there, still broken, as if his work had never occurred. His apprentice insisted the watch had just arrived that morning. Then came the morning when his favorite cafe, where he had taken his breakfast for 15 years, stood as a bookshop, and according to everyone else, always had been. As Eliot's certainty crumbled, a greater truth emerged. Reality was not the solid, unchangeable force he had believed it to be. It was more like water, flowing and responding to the vessel of consciousness that contained it. 2 decades later, in the glittering world of Hollywood, Eleanor Davis stood before her mirror, her hands trembling with determination. For years, she had been just another face in the crowd, another hopeful lost in the sea of dreams. But on that pivotal morning, something within her shifted. She looked into her reflection and saw not what was, but what could be, what in her heart already was. "I am a star," she whispered, not as an affirmation but as a recognition of truth. She began living from this unwavering knowing, carrying herself with the grace and confidence of the success she felt within. Within months, the external world began to mirror her internal certainty. A chance encounter at a diner led to an audition. The audition led to a small role, which caught the eye of a prominent director. By year's end, Eleanor Davis had become the name on everyone's lips, not through luck or chance, but through the power of her transformed consciousness. These tales illuminate a truth as old as consciousness itself. What we perceive as solid reality is but a reflection of our inner state. The world you see is not fixed. It is responsive, alive, and waiting for your direction. Sacred insight. Reality is not happening to you. It is responding to you. The ancient practice of reality bending. Select one small aspect of your daily experience you wish to transform. Perhaps it is the way others respond to you, or the flow of your morning routine. For 7 days, hold an unwavering knowing that this aspect is already different. Not hoping, not wishing, knowing. Carry this knowing in your heart as naturally as you know the sun will rise. Watch as the external world begins to dance to the rhythm of your new awareness. Record each shift, each synchronicity, no matter how small. For in these subtle changes, you will witness the malleable nature of reality itself. Chapter 2. The Hidden Code of Reality. In the bustling newsroom of the Chicago Herald, amid the clatter of typewriters and the haze of cigarette smoke, James Anderson first glimpsed the hidden architecture of reality. It began with a headline he wrote about a local bridge construction, "Steel Dreams Rise Above River." 3 days later, those exact words appeared in a conversation he overheard on the train, spoken by strangers discussing their ambitions. At first, you might dismiss such occurrences as mere coincidence, as James did, but the patterns continued to emerge. You see, reality speaks in echoes. What James discovered was not random chance, but the underlying rhythm of existence itself. Like ripples in a pond, each thought, each word, each action creates waves that reflect and repeat across the fabric of time. In a modest suburban home in 1943, Dorothy Wheeler made a similar discovery. While hanging laundry one spring morning, she found herself spontaneously dancing to a neighbor's radio. That afternoon, an unexpected check arrived in the mail. A week later, while baking cookies with her children, their laughter and joy filled the kitchen. And the next day, her husband received a surprise promotion. Dorothy began to see the pattern. Moments of pure, unconditional joy preceded unexpected blessings. She had stumbled upon one of reality's most potent codes. Rather than forcing outcomes or struggling against circumstances, she learned to surrender to joy, knowing it was the key that unlocked abundance. This is not coincidence, it is cosmic law. Reality operates through precise patterns, like a vast mathematical equation. These patterns exist at every level, from the spiral of galaxies to the unfurling of a fern leaf, from the cycle of seasons to the rhythm of your daily experiences. Sacred insight. The universe speaks in patterns. Those who learn its language become masters of manifestation. The pattern recognition ritual. For the next 3 days, become a detective of your own reality. In a sacred journal, record every instance where your external world mirrors your internal state. Note the thoughts you held in the morning and the events that followed. Watch how your emotional frequencies attract matching experiences. Pay special attention to recurring themes, numbers, or situations. This is not merely an exercise in observation. It is an initiation into the hidden language of existence. As you track these patterns, you begin to speak the tongue of the universe itself, allowing you to compose the symphony of your reality with conscious intention. Chapter 3: The Hall of Mirrors: How Reality Reflects You. In the smoke-filled haze of the Blue Note, Richard Matthews's fingers danced across ivory keys, his melodies falling on deaf ears. Night after night he poured his soul into each note, yet the patrons grew more hostile, their jeers cutting through his music like discordant chords. You see, Richard had mastered his instrument, but he had yet to master the most crucial instrument of all, his own inner state. What you must understand is that the world around you is not responding to your actions, but to the frequency of your being. Richard played beautiful music, but he carried within him a deep sense of unworthiness, a belief that his art would never be truly appreciated. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, simply mirrored this truth back to him. Then one evening, something shifted. Before taking his place at the piano, Richard closed his eyes and allowed himself to feel what he had always denied, that he was, in his essence, an artist worthy of reverence. He didn't merely think this thought, he became it. That night, the same notes flowed from his fingers, but the response was dramatically different. The room fell silent, mesmerized. Within weeks, the Blue Note transformed into a sanctuary of jazz appreciation. In the quiet streets of 1930s Boston, Margaret Sullivan experienced a similar awakening. Standing before her mirror one morning, weary of rejection letters, she spoke words that would alter the fabric of her reality. "I am not a struggling poet. I am the voice of a generation." She didn't simply say these words. She allowed them to rewrite her very identity. The universe responds not to your desires or even your actions, but to the immutable truth of who you know yourself to be. Margaret's transformation was not in her writing. It was in her being. Within months, publishers who had previously dismissed her work began seeking her out. The same poems that had been rejected now resonated with profound impact, not because the words had changed, but because the consciousness behind them had shifted. Sacred insight. Your external reality is nothing more than your internal state made visible. What you perceive as the world around you is but a mirror, reflecting back the deepest truths you hold within your consciousness. The ancient masters understood this profound principle, that the universe conspires to manifest physically what you have already accepted as truth in your heart. When you grasp this eternal wisdom, you begin to see that every circumstance, every encounter, every manifestation in your life is showing you who you believe yourself to be. The Mirror of Being Ritual. Before you engage with any situation today, pause and intentionally shift your emotional frequency. If you're entering a meeting, don't just prepare your words, prepare your state of being. Become the person who naturally attracts success. Observe how differently people respond to you, not because of what you do, but because of who you are being. Record each shift in your sacred journal, noting how reality rearranges itself to match your inner transformation. Chapter 4: The Dreamer Awakens, Life as a Lucid Dream. In the depths of night over the Pacific, Lieutenant John Harrison found himself in an unusual state of awareness. Though his P-51 Mustang cut through clouds as it always had, something was different. The sky seemed more vibrant, the stars more responsive to his thoughts. As his consciousness expanded, he realized he was dreaming, yet fully awake. You see, what John discovered that night mirrors a truth that has remained hidden from humanity for ages. Your waking life operates by the same principles as a lucid dream. Just as John could direct his aircraft with mere intention in his heightened state, You too can shape the fabric of your reality through conscious awareness. In the quiet halls of the Boston Public Library, Anna Wells stumbled upon this same truth through a different door. Surrounded by ancient texts, she made a decision that would alter her existence. She would treat each moment as if she were in a dream where anything was possible. She didn't simply believe this intellectually. She embraced it as her operating system. When a patron requested a rare manuscript, instead of stating the usual, "It could take weeks," Anna smiled and said, "It will appear at precisely the right moment." To her amazement, within hours, that exact manuscript was returned by another patron who had held it for years. This was not coincidence. It was the natural response of a universe that operates according to your deepest assumptions. The veil between dreams and reality is thinner than you imagine. When you truly grasp that your waking life is as malleable as a lucid dream, the impossible becomes natural. Just as dream objects respond to your dream awareness, your physical reality reshapes itself according to your awakened consciousness. Sacred insight. Life is not happening to you. It is responding to your level of awareness. When you awaken within the dream of life, you step into your role as its creator. The reality check ritual. Throughout your day, pause and perform this ancient practice of awakening. Choose something you believe to be impossible in your current circumstances. For a moment, assume it is not only possible, but natural. Notice how your reality begins to bend around this new assumption. Document each shift, each coincidence that follows your reality checks. You are not testing reality. You are discovering your power as its author. Chapter 5. The Reality Selection Principle. In a small clock shop in Vermont, Charlie Matthews stood before two pocket watches. One was gold, the other silver. As he reached for the gold watch, time seemed to split. In one reality, he chose the gold watch and found himself meeting a mysterious stranger who would change his life. In another, he selected the silver watch and continued his ordinary existence. This moment unveiled a truth that had been whispered through the ages. Reality does not flow like a river, but branches like a tree with infinite possibilities. You see, every choice you make is not merely a decision. It is a selection of which reality you will experience. The universe does not unfold in a straight line. It expands in all directions simultaneously, waiting for your consciousness to determine which path manifests. Ruth Bennett understood this principle through a different doorway. After her husband's passing in 1952, she faced a pivotal moment. Rather than accepting the identity of grieving widow, she made a choice that altered the fabric of her existence. "I am beginning a grand new adventure," she declared to her reflection one morning. In that instant, her reality shifted. Within days, opportunities emerged that had been invisible before. An old letter arrived containing forgotten stocks. A neighbor invited her to co-host art gatherings, and a passion for painting she had abandoned in youth reignited. The power of choice extends beyond mere decisions. It is the mechanism through which you select which version of reality becomes your experience. Each moment presents infinite possibilities, and your consciousness determines which one materializes. Sacred insight. You are not moving through time toward your future. You are selecting which reality you will experience from an infinite field of possibilities. The selection ritual. Begin with small outcomes throughout your day. Before entering a room, select the experience you will have. Before making a phone call, choose which version of the conversation will unfold. Document these conscious selections and observe how reality aligns with your choices. You are not predicting the future. You are selecting it from the infinite possibilities that exist in every moment. Remember, your power lies not in hoping for a particular outcome, but in choosing which reality you step into. Every choice, no matter how small, is an act of reality selection. In each moment of decision, you stand at a sacred crossroads where infinite possibilities converge. Through your conscious awareness and intentional selection, you determine not just what might happen, but what must happen in accordance with your divine choice. This is the profound truth that the ancient masters knew, that your will, aligned with universal law, becomes the architect of your experience. Chapter 6: The World is Not What You Think It Is. In a dimly lit workshop in 1934, Elliot Harrison noticed something peculiar. The brass gears he had carefully arranged on his workbench had shifted position overnight, though no one else had access to his private workspace. At first he dismissed it as fatigue, but then other anomalies began to surface. His neighbors spoke of events he couldn't recall, while memories he held clearly seemed to exist only in his mind. One morning, as sunlight filtered through dusty windows, Elliot watched in astonishment as a pocket watch he'd repaired yesterday now sat pristine on his bench, though he distinctly remembered it still needed work. In that moment, the rigid walls of his perception began to crack, revealing a profound truth. Reality was not the solid, unchangeable force he'd believed it to be. You see, what appears fixed is merely an illusion, a projection of your deepest beliefs about what is possible. Your consciousness shapes the very fabric of existence, moment by moment, thought by thought. Consider Eleanor Matthews, who graced the stages of small theaters in 1952. Night after night, she performed for sparse audiences until one morning she made a decision that would alter the course of her existence. Instead of seeing herself as a struggling actress, she embraced an unwavering knowing that she was already a star. She began carrying herself differently, speaking with quiet authority, treating each small performance as if it were opening night on Broadway. Within months, her reality transformed to match this inner certainty. A prominent director discovered her in a small production. Critics began noticing her performances. Opportunities that had seemed impossible now appeared naturally, as if they had been waiting for her all along. What you perceive as your fixed reality is actually a reflection of your internal state. Change that state, and the external world must shift to mirror it. This is not metaphor or wishful thinking. It is the fundamental mechanism by which reality operates. The perception shift ritual. Select one small aspect of your daily experience you wish to alter. Perhaps it's the way others respond to you, or the flow of your morning routine. Write down your current belief about this situation. Now craft a new belief that feels both exciting and possible. For the next 7 days, hold this new belief as if it were already true. Watch as your external world begins to shift, revealing the malleable nature of reality itself. Document each change, no matter how subtle, for these are the first cracks in the illusion of a fixed world. Chapter 7: The Hidden Code of Reality. In the bustling newsroom of the Chicago Herald in 1923, James Mitchell began to witness something extraordinary. As chief editor, he reviewed countless headlines each day, but soon noticed these headlines weren't just reporting the past, they were forecasting the future. A story about a local merchant's success would mysteriously mirror a conversation he'd have days later. An article about weather patterns would play out in unexpected ways in his personal life. You see, reality operates on a precise mathematical principle, much like the golden ratio found in nature. Events, circumstances, and experiences follow distinct patterns that, once recognized, reveal the underlying structure of existence itself. James started documenting these patterns, filling notebook after notebook with observations. He discovered that news stories about triumph often preceded personal victories, while articles about community gatherings preceded unexpected reunions in his own life. The universe was speaking through these patterns, showing him the blueprint of reality itself. This truth extends beyond mere coincidence. Reality is structured like a fractal. Patterns repeat at every level, from the microscopic to the cosmic. When you understand this principle, you gain the power to influence these patterns, directing the flow of events in your favor. Consider Dorothy Wells, a homemaker in 1947, who uncovered her own pattern. She noticed that whenever she fully embraced moments of joy, whether while baking bread or tending her garden, unexpected gifts would appear in her life. A neighbor would bring fresh vegetables, a forgotten debt would be repaid, or an opportunity would arise for her husband's business. Dorothy began to consciously work with this pattern, embracing it as a sacred key to universal abundance. Rather than waiting for joy to find her, she actively chose it in each moment, knowing it was the catalyst that would unlock the flow of blessings in her life. She found ways to infuse even the smallest tasks with genuine appreciation, humming while hanging laundry, blessing each dish as she washed it, finding delight in the morning dew on her roses. Soon her life transformed in ways that seemed miraculous to others, but felt perfectly natural to her. The pattern she discovered became a powerful tool for creating the reality she desired, proving that when you align with the universe's inherent rhythm of joy, it responds in kind, with ever-increasing abundance. The Pattern Recognition Ritual. For the next 3 days, maintain a sacred record of your experiences. Note your predominant thoughts and emotions throughout the day, then observe how reality mirrors these back to you. Watch for recurring themes, numbers, or situations. Pay special attention to the events that follow specific emotional states or thoughts. This practice will reveal the hidden language through which the universe communicates with you, allowing you to decode the messages woven into the fabric of your daily life. Chapter 8. The Hall of Mirrors. How Reality Reflects You. In the smoke-filled jazz clubs of New Orleans, Richard Thompson's fingers danced across ivory keys night after night, yet his music fell on hostile ears. The patrons argued, glasses shattered, and an air of discord hung heavy in the room. Night after night, the same scene played out, until Richard discovered the ancient truth that would transform everything. You see, the world around you is not responding to your desires or even your actions. It responds to who you believe yourself to be. Richard's revelation came when he realized that while playing, he carried the weight of past rejections, the fear of failure, the identity of someone unworthy of appreciation. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, simply reflected this back to him. One evening, before touching the keys, Richard closed his eyes and transformed his inner state. He embraced the identity of a master musician whose music healed souls. As his fingers touched the keys that night, the atmosphere shifted. The patrons fell silent, their faces softened, and the room filled with an almost sacred energy. Nothing in his technique had changed. Only his inner state had shifted, and reality adjusted accordingly. This mirror principle manifested just as powerfully for Margaret Wells, a poet in 1934. For years, her work was rejected by every publisher in Boston. Then one morning, standing before her mirror, she made a declaration that would alter the course of her life. "I am a voice for the ages, and my words heal hearts." She didn't merely say these words, she became them. Within weeks, her external reality began to shift. A publisher discovered her work at a local reading. Her first collection resonated deeply with readers. Her words and deed began healing hearts. The mirror of life reflected back not what she wanted to achieve, but who she had become. The truth stands before you now. Your external world is not random. It is a precise reflection of your inner state, your deepest beliefs about who you are. When you change your identity, reality has no choice but to reshape itself around your new truth. The mirror state transformation. Stand before a mirror at sunrise or sunset. Observe your current emotional state and the reality it has created. Now consciously shift your inner state to one of pure confidence, joy, or peace. Hold this new state for 3 full breaths. Carry this transformed energy with you throughout your day. Watch as the world begins responding differently. How strangers interact with you, how circumstances unfold, how opportunities arise. This is not magic. It is the natural law of reflection at work. Chapter 9. The Dreamer Awakens. Life as a Lucid Dream. High above the Pacific in 1943, John Anderson's P-51 Mustang spiraled into a nosedive. As consciousness slipped away, he found himself in a vivid dream. Yet unlike ordinary dreams, he realized he was dreaming. In that moment of lucidity, he discovered he could control every aspect of his dreamscape. The clouds parted at his will, gravity bent to his intention, and reality reshaped itself according to his thoughts. When John awoke in his bunk, unharmed, he carried with him a startling revelation. Your waking life operates by the same principles as a lucid dream. The only difference lies in your awareness of this truth. The power of this realization manifested just as clearly through Anna Mitchell, who worked in the Boston Public Library in 1924. Surrounded by countless stories of possibility, she made a remarkable choice one autumn morning. Instead of accepting the rigid boundaries of her daily life, she decided to treat reality as if it were a dream where anything was possible. She began small, imagining new books appearing exactly when needed, patrons finding precisely what they sought. To her amazement, these small shifts manifested instantly. Emboldened, she expanded her dreaming. She envisioned herself as the head librarian, though such a position had never been held by a woman. Within weeks, a series of unexpected events led to her appointment. The truth stands unveiled before you. Your reality is as malleable as a dream. The only difference between those who manifest their desires and those who remain bound by circumstance is their level of awareness. When you realize you are the dreamer, not merely a character in someone else's dream, everything changes. The reality check practice. Throughout your day, pause 3 times and perform this ancient practice. Look at your hands just as you would in a lucid dream. Ask yourself, if this were a dream, what would I change in this moment? Then, with the certainty of a dreamer who knows they are dreaming, assume this change is not only possible, but inevitable. Watch as reality begins to bend around your new assumption. This is not a mere exercise in imagination. It is a fundamental shift in your relationship with reality. Just as a dreamer needs no permission to alter their dreamscape, you need no permission to reshape your world. The only barrier between you and your desires is your awareness of this truth. Chapter 10. The Reality Selection Principle. In the quiet town of Cedar Grove during the Great Depression, Charlie Matthews stood at a crossroads. Before him stretched 2 paths, one leading to the factory where his father had worked for 30 years, the other toward the train station and an uncertain future. In that moment, he glimpsed a profound truth. Each choice creates a distinct branch of reality. As Charlie chose the path to the station, something extraordinary occurred. The world around him seemed to shimmer, as if reality itself was adjusting to his decision. Within days, opportunities emerged that had never existed before. His choice had not just changed his direction, it had altered the very fabric of his possible futures. This truth reveals itself again through Ruth Henderson's story. In 1952, after her husband's passing, Ruth faced a mirror in her modest Chicago apartment. Instead of seeing a widow bound by circumstance, she made a choice to see herself as a woman beginning a grand adventure. The moment she chose this new identity, her world began to shift. Within days, conversations took unexpected turns. A chance meeting led to an opportunity she couldn't have imagined in her previous identity. Her choice of who to be created ripples that transformed her entire reality. You must understand, reality does not unfold in a straight line. Each moment presents infinite branches of possibility, and your choices determine which version manifests. You are not moving through time, you are selecting which timeline becomes your experience. The ancient masters knew this truth. Your future is not waiting to happen to you. It is waiting to be chosen by you. Every thought, every decision, every assumed identity is a choice that activates a particular branch of reality. The choice manifestation practice. Begin with something small but specific. Choose an outcome for your day. Perhaps an unexpected conversation with a stranger wearing blue, or finding an exact amount of money. Make this choice with absolute certainty, as if selecting an item from a menu. Do not wish for it. Do not hope for it. Choose it, knowing that among the infinite branches of reality, you are selecting the one where this outcome exists. Then watch as reality adjusts to accommodate your choice. This is not manifestation through action or effort. It is manifestation through selection. You are not creating these possibilities. You are choosing which already existing possibility becomes your experience. Practice this throughout your day, starting with small choices and watching how quickly reality conforms to your selections. Remember, you are not predicting the future, you are choosing it. Part 2. Breaking the Illusion. Chapter 11. The Power of Now, Unlocking the Gateway to All Possibilities. In the bustling financial district of 1929 New York, Edward Montgomery rushed between meetings, his gold pocket watch perpetually in hand. Time was his enemy, always racing ahead to the next deal, the next opportunity, the next fortune to be made. His mind lived in an imagined future where wealth would finally bring peace. Then came October 24th. The market crashed, and with it, Edward's carefully constructed future crumbled. In one devastating moment, all his forward planning became meaningless. For the first time, he had nowhere to go, nothing to chase. And in that forced stillness, he discovered something extraordinary. Stripped of his ability to control tomorrow, Edward began to notice the present moment. The taste of his morning coffee, the sound of footsteps on marble floors, the play of sunlight through his office window. As his awareness shifted to the now, remarkable coincidences began occurring. Opportunities emerged from unexpected places. Solutions appeared precisely when needed. This truth manifested differently for Beatrice Thompson, a seamstress in 1944 Milwaukee. While others rushed their work, Beatrice brought complete attention to each stitch, each movement of the needle. She discovered that when she merged totally with the present moment, time itself seemed to bend. Work that should have taken hours flowed effortlessly in minutes. Clients appeared at exactly the right time. Resources materialized just as she needed them. You must understand, the present moment is not merely a point between past and future. It is the only point of power. It is where all possible realities converge, where transformation happens instantly. When you step fully into the now, you step into pure potential. Most people scatter their power across time, regretting the past, worrying about the future. But true manifestation occurs only in the present moment. When you bring your full awareness to now, you access a dimension where all possibilities exist simultaneously, the present moment alignment practice. Throughout your day, bring your complete attention to whatever you are doing. Notice the sensation of water on your hands while washing dishes. Feel the weight of your body as you walk. Observe the subtle sounds around you. When your mind wanders to past or future, gently return to the present. As you practice this presence, watch how reality responds. Notice how time flows differently, how synchronicities increase, how solutions appear naturally. The more deeply you inhabit the now, the more life aligns with your highest good. This is not about controlling time, it is about entering the timeless. In the present moment, all power exists, all doors open, all transformation becomes possible. Chapter 12. The Illusion of Time and the Collapse of Past and Future. In the quiet back room of his repair shop, Franklin Bennett held time in his hands. Each watch that crossed his workbench told a different story, some running fast, others slow, each keeping its own peculiar rhythm. As he adjusted their delicate mechanisms, he noticed something extraordinary. Time itself seemed to flow differently depending on how he perceived it. When Franklin focused intently on his work, hours compressed into minutes. When his mind wandered to memories, the present moment expanded, becoming fluid and malleable. Through countless hours of observation, he uncovered a profound truth. Time was not a rigid march forward, but a dance of consciousness. The universe speaks to you through such stories, revealing that what you call time is merely a construct of perception. Your past, present, and future exist simultaneously, interweaving and influencing each other in ways your logical mind cannot grasp. Eleanor Williams discovered this truth in her own way. After 30 years of teaching, she spent her afternoons lost in old photo albums, reliving memories that seemed etched in stone. One day, she began to reimagine a painful childhood event, not as it had happened, but as she wished it had occurred. To her amazement, new memories began to surface, memories that felt equally real. As she continued this practice, her present circumstances shifted subtly but unmistakably. Relationships healed, opportunities emerged, and her future rearranged itself to align with her transformed past. You must understand, time is not a linear path but a sphere of infinite possibilities. Every moment contains all moments. When you shift your perception of any point in time, you alter the entire sphere. The Time Transformation Ritual. Sit quietly and bring to mind an event from your past that still carries emotional weight. Now consciously choose to see this event differently. Reimagine it not as it was, but as you would have wished it to be. Feel this new version becoming real in your consciousness. Allow your entire timeline to reorganize itself around this transformed memory. As you practice this, observe how your present circumstances begin to shift, first subtly, then with growing momentum. Notice new possibilities emerging where once there seemed only limitations, old patterns dissolving like mist in the morning sun, future potentials awakening as seeds of possibility in fertile soil. The fabric of your reality will begin to reshape itself around your transformed perception. You are not changing history, you are realizing that history itself is fluid, responding to your consciousness just as surely as the present moment. For time is but a construct of the mind, and the mind holds dominion over all dimensions of experience. Chapter 13. The Belief Paradox. You see what you believe. In the dim corners of a Chicago jazz club, Lawrence Mitchell played his saxophone night after night, his music carrying the weight of his bitter certainty. Each empty seat in the audience confirmed what he already knew. The world was set against him. His talent went unrecognized, his dreams unrealized, all because fate had dealt him a cruel hand. Until one evening, when an elderly gentleman remained after the show, his eyes held a peculiar gleam as he spoke words that would shatter Lawrence's understanding of reality. "The world isn't against you, son. It's simply agreeing with you." What unfolded was a truth so simple yet profound that it would transform not only Lawrence's career, but the very fabric of his existence. The old man revealed that beliefs are not passive observations of reality. They are the active force that shapes it. Within months of shifting his perspective, Lawrence's music began drawing crowds, his reputation grew, and opportunities emerged as if by magic. This principle manifested even more dramatically in the life of Dorothy Wells. After losing her husband in 1934, she carried the belief that life had ended for her as well. Her world became a reflection of this conviction, gray, limited, devoid of possibility. Then one morning she made a decision that seemed small, but contained the power to reshape reality. She chose to believe, despite all evidence to the contrary, that life was conspiring in her favor. The transformation began subtly at first. A kind neighbor offering fresh bread, an unexpected letter bearing good news, a chance encounter leading to a new friendship. Within weeks, her world had shifted so dramatically that those who knew her spoke of miracles. But there were no miracles, only the natural law that your outer world must conform to your inner beliefs. You see, most seek to change their circumstances while clinging to the very beliefs that created those circumstances. This is why so many remain trapped in cycles of limitation, unaware that they hold the key to their own liberation. The ancient belief transmutation ritual. Select one core belief that has shaped your reality. Perhaps life is hard, or success eludes me. For 7 days you will consciously hold its opposite truth in your mind and heart. Each morning, write this new belief 3 times. Throughout the day, whenever you notice the old belief arising, gently replace it with the new one. Keep a sacred record of how your external world begins to shift. Notice the subtle changes first, the way people respond to you differently, the small synchronicities that appear, the new opportunities that emerge. Watch as your reality reorganizes itself around your transformed belief, for this is the hidden mechanism behind all manifestation. Before we get into the next chapter, you can download a free ebook version of this audiobook using the link in the pinned comment below this video. Chapter 14, The Universe is Alive and Responding to You. Through the mists of time, a remarkable account has been preserved. The story of Harrison Wells, whose awakening to the living intelligence of the universe holds a vital key for your own transformation. In his cluttered workshop in Boston, 1923, Harrison noticed something peculiar. The same numbers kept appearing on invoices and street addresses. Identical phrases emerged in different conversations. Objects seemed to arrange themselves in meaningful patterns. At first he dismissed these occurrences as mere coincidence. Yet as the synchronicities multiplied, a profound truth began to dawn. The universe was responding to his thoughts with precise, intelligent feedback. This revelation finds its mirror in Virginia Thompson's experience 2 decades later. Working the switchboard at Bell Telephone in 1944, Virginia discovered she could dial into the universe itself. When she silently asked for guidance, answers would appear through overheard conversations, random pages of books falling open, or seemingly chance encounters. The universe, she realized, was not a cold, mechanical system, but a living presence engaged in constant dialogue with her consciousness. What these accounts reveal is a truth that has been hidden in plain sight. The universe is not separate from you. It is not a backdrop against which your life unfolds, but a living intelligence that responds to your every thought, feeling, and intention. Those seemingly random coincidences you experience, they are messages, precisely calibrated responses to your inner state. Consider how a mirror instantly reflects your movement. There is no delay, no separation between action and reflection. The universe operates in the same way, constantly reflecting back your consciousness in the form of events, encounters, and circumstances. Every synchronicity you experience is a confirmation that you are in direct communication with the infinite intelligence that pervades all existence. The sacred sign invocation. Tonight, before you rest, speak silently to the universe. Ask for a specific sign, perhaps a certain color, symbol, or occurrence. Make your request clear, but release any attachment to how or when it might appear. Then, for the next 24 hours, maintain a state of gentle awareness. Watch how the universe responds, not with the analytical mind, but with the knowing that comes from your deeper self. Record each sign or synchronicity in a sacred journal, noting not just what appears, but the feeling that accompanies each occurrence. Pay special attention to the subtle whispers of intuition that arise within you, the quickening of your heart, the surge of recognition, the quiet certainty that something meaningful has transpired. For in this intimate dialogue between your consciousness and universal intelligence lies the key to manifesting your deepest desires. Each documented synchronicity becomes a thread in the tapestry of divine communication, weaving together the visible and invisible realms of your experience. Through this practice of sacred observation and recording, you strengthen the bridge between your earthly awareness and the infinite wisdom that seeks to guide you. Chapter 15. The shift begins, waking up from the dream. In the annals of awakening, few accounts illuminate the threshold between sleeping and waking consciousness as vividly as that of Benjamin Thorne. On a frost-laden morning in 1934, Benjamin stood at his usual post aboard the Eastern Continental, his hand steady on the throttle, when something extraordinary occurred. The previous night's dream still clung to him like morning mist. In that dream, he had been both the train conductor and the architect of the railway itself, effortlessly bending tracks with mere thoughts, creating stations with a gesture. Upon waking, rather than dismissing this vision, Benjamin began to question, was his waking life truly any different? As he observed his daily reality with new eyes, the barriers between dream and waking life dissolved. He noticed how his expectations shaped each day's events, how his mood influenced passenger behavior, how his thoughts seemed to precede circumstances rather than follow them. This awakening finds its echo in Lillian Foster's transformation. In her modest dress shop in 1952, surrounded by patterns and possibilities, Lillian experienced a sudden clarity. She had been following a script written by others, family expectations, societal norms, inherited limitations. In that moment of recognition, she claimed her role as author of her own existence. She began small, rewriting her daily routines, then her relationships, her business approach, and finally her entire life story. Where she once saw fixed circumstances, she now recognized infinite possibilities. Her small dress shop transformed into a celebrated fashion house not through external changes, but through her internal rewriting of what was possible. These accounts reveal the fundamental truth. You are not merely a character in life's grand play. You are its author. Every circumstance you encounter is not happening to you, but through you. The script of your life awaits your conscious revision. The conscious authorship ritual. Select one area of your life that feels fixed or unchangeable. Take 3 deep breaths, allowing your awareness to expand beyond its usual boundaries. Now, with the authority of an author revising their work, write a new scene for this aspect of your life. Be specific, detailed, and unwavering in your vision. Speak this new narrative aloud 3 times, feeling each word resonate with the power of truth. Then move through your day as if this new reality is already manifesting. Watch how quickly the external world begins to mirror your revised script. Document each shift, each synchronicity that confirms your new narrative. For you are not merely imagining a new story. You are awakening to your role as the divine author of your existence. Chapter 16. Frequency is Reality. The Science of Vibration. Through the static and interference of daily existence emerges a truth so fundamental it has remained hidden in plain sight. Let me share with you the revelation that came to Walter Bennett one rain-soaked evening in 1943. In his cramped radio repair shop, surrounded by vacuum tubes and copper wire, Walter spent countless hours adjusting frequencies, seeking perfect clarity through waves of noise. Night after night, he witnessed how the slightest adjustment could transform chaos into crystal-clear reception. Then, on one fateful evening, as he fine-tuned yet another radio, understanding struck him like lightning. His life, indeed all of existence, operated on the same principle. The world wasn't broadcasting mixed signals. He had simply been tuned to the wrong frequency. Every thought, every emotion, every circumstance vibrated at its own distinct frequency. What appeared in his life wasn't random. It was precisely what matched his inner tuning. This same wisdom found its expression through Evelyn Rhodes, whose fingers danced across piano keys in a smoky Chicago speakeasy in 1924. For years, she played the same melancholy tunes, attracting audiences that matched her somber mood. Then one evening she discovered that by changing the music within her heart, the very atmosphere of the club transformed. As she shifted to playing uplifting melodies, her audience changed. The drunken crowds gave way to music lovers, and eventually, her concerts moved from dim speakeasies to prestigious concert halls. You see, the universe isn't responding to your wishes or wants. It's responding to your frequency. Like a radio receiving only stations that match its tuning, you experience only what resonates with your dominant vibration. Your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are not merely passive observers of reality. They are the frequency dial through which you tune into different versions of existence. The Frequency Reset Ritual. Begin tomorrow at dawn. Choose a vibration you wish to embody: joy, abundance, peace, or love. For one full day, consciously maintain this frequency in your thoughts, emotions, and actions. When lower vibrations arise, adjust your tuning like Walter with his radio, fine-tuning until clarity returns. Notice how people respond differently, how circumstances align with your new frequency, how doors that seemed closed begin to open. You are not changing the world. You are simply tuning into a different broadcast of reality. Keep a log of every shift, every synchronicity that confirms your new frequency. For in this practice lies the key to conscious reality creation. You become what you vibrate, and your world transforms accordingly. Chapter 17. The Observer Effect. How your focus creates matter. In the dimly lit laboratory of Princeton University, 1934, Henry Blackwood made a discovery that would shatter conventional understanding of reality. As he observed electrons through his apparatus, he noticed something that defied logic. The mere act of watching them altered their behavior. The implications were staggering. Consciousness itself was interacting with reality at its most fundamental level. You see, what Henry uncovered that night was not merely a scientific curiosity. It was the key to understanding how reality forms itself around your awareness. The electrons responded to observation just as your world responds to your attention. Whatever you focus upon grows, expands, and manifests with increasing intensity. This truth revealed itself again through Clara Mitchell, who taught at a small schoolhouse in rural Minnesota during the harsh winter of 1942. Each day she noticed the broken window panes, the worn-out books, the struggling students, and each day these problems seemed to multiply. The more she focused on what was lacking, the more lack appeared. Then one morning something shifted. Rather than seeing the cracks in the windows, she began noticing how the sunlight created beautiful patterns through them. Instead of counting the missing books, she marveled at how eagerly her students shared the ones they had. Within weeks, unexpected donations arrived. Parents volunteered to repair the windows. The very reality of her classroom transformed, not because the circumstances had changed, but because she had shifted her point of awareness. The universe operates as a grand mirror, reflecting back precisely what you hold in your field of attention. Like a photographer choosing where to point their lens, you are constantly selecting which aspects of reality to develop and enlarge through your focus. The Observer's Experiment. For the next 3 days, you will conduct a systematic reality-bending experiment. Begin by identifying 3 current challenges in your life. Now, consciously shift your attention to the possibilities hidden within each situation. Where you see lack, look for abundance in unexpected forms. Where you see obstacles, search for opportunities. Document every shift, every subtle change in circumstances that follows your redirected attention. You will discover, as Henry did with his electrons and Clara with her classroom, that reality rearranges itself to match the focus of your awareness. Remember, your attention is not passive. It is the very force that shapes the quantum fabric of your existence. Every thought, every focused moment of awareness ripples through the unseen dimensions of reality, leaving its indelible mark. Like a master artist wielding a divine brush, your consciousness paints the canvas of your experience with each observation. Use it wisely, for what you observe, you create, and what you create becomes the living testament of your inner vision. Chapter 18. The Identity Shift, Becoming the Version of You Who Already Has It. In the bustling streets of Chicago, 1923, Howard Matthews sat in his workshop, surrounded by failed inventions and mounting debts. Each morning, he would stare at his reflection, seeing only a struggling inventor destined for obscurity. Until one evening, as shadows lengthened across his workbench, an elderly gentleman appeared at his door. "You create nothing new," the stranger said, "because you remain the same old self." Those words marked the beginning of Howard's transformation. The stranger, who became his mentor, revealed an ancient truth. The outer world arranges itself to match your inner identity. Success was not about working harder. It was about becoming a different person. This wisdom echoed through time to Margaret Wells, a seamstress in Boston, 1935. Her small shop was failing until she discovered the same principle. One morning, she decided to embody the identity of a renowned dressmaker. She carried herself differently, spoke with quiet authority, and made decisions as if she already owned the most prestigious boutique in the city. Within weeks, wealthy clients began appearing. Her designs caught the attention of society magazines. Her reality shifted not because she had learned new skills, but because she had become someone new. You see, the universe responds not to your desires or even your actions, but to who you are. When you shift your core identity, reality has no choice but to reflect this change. It is an immutable law, as certain as gravity. The ancient practice of identity shifting. Select one area of your life you wish to transform. For the next 24 hours, you will fully embody the identity of someone who has already achieved this goal. This is not pretending. It is claiming a new reality. Move as they would move. Think as they would think. Make decisions from their perspective. Notice how the world begins responding differently to this new you. Pay attention to the subtle shifts in how others treat you, how opportunities appear, how circumstances arrange themselves to match your new identity. Remember, you are not trying to achieve something, you are becoming someone new. The moment you fully step into this new identity, the universe must reshape itself to mirror who you have become. This is not a game of doing, but a transformation of being. Chapter 19. The Law of Assumption Acting as If Until It Becomes Real. In the quiet streets of Philadelphia, 1942, Louis Blackwood stood before his mirror, adjusting his tie with practiced precision. His tailoring shop provided enough to survive, but prosperity seemed to belong to a different class of people, until the day he questioned this deeply held belief. What if abundance was actually meant for me? He whispered to his reflection, and something shifted in the universe. Louis began a simple experiment. Each morning, he assumed wealth would naturally flow to him. He treated his modest shop as though it were the most prestigious establishment in the city. When wealthy clients entered, he assumed they would become regulars. When opportunities arose, he assumed they would succeed. Within months, his assumptions crystallized into reality. His once quiet shop buzzed with Philadelphia's elite. Orders flowed in effortlessly. Money, which had always seemed to evade him, now appeared through unexpected channels. This same principle revealed itself to Alice Henderson, who arranged flowers in her small Chicago shop in 1934. After years of disappointing relationships, she discovered that her assumptions about love were creating her experience. She had always assumed good men were rare, relationships were difficult, and true connection was unlikely. One spring morning, she chose different assumptions. She began to assume that love was abundant, that genuine connections were natural, and that she was deeply lovable. As she arranged her roses and lilies each day, she held these new assumptions with quiet certainty. Her world transformed. Customers began sharing deeper conversations. New friendships blossomed effortlessly. A kind gentleman who visited her shop weekly to buy flowers for his mother soon became her husband. Nothing in her external world had changed, only her assumptions. You see, your assumptions are not merely thoughts. They are the invisible architects of your reality. What you consistently assume to be true must, by universal law, harden into fact. This is not wishful thinking or mere positive belief. It is a fundamental principle of existence. Your assumptions create your world. The ancient practice of assumption. Take 7 days to transform your assumptions. First, write down your current assumptions about wealth, love, health, and success. Be ruthlessly honest. These assumptions have been silently shaping your reality. Now, consciously choose new assumptions that align with the life you wish to create. Hold these new assumptions as firmly as you once held the old ones. Live from them. Make decisions based on them. Let them guide your actions and responses. Remember, you are not trying to convince yourself of anything. You are simply choosing different assumptions and allowing reality to reshape itself accordingly. The universe has no choice but to reflect back what you assume to be true. Chapter 20. Time Jumping: How to Collapse Timelines and Speed Up Manifestation. In the bustling streets of New York City, 1923, Roger Matthews rushed between assignments, his notebook filled with half-written stories and unfulfilled dreams. Time, he believed, was a straight line leading to some distant future where his true life would begin, until he met Augustus Vail. The old clockmaker sat in his dimly lit shop, surrounded by timepieces that seemed to tick in impossible rhythms. "Time," Augustus said, his eyes gleaming with ancient wisdom, "is not a river flowing in one direction. It is an ocean, and you can swim to any shore you choose." Roger scoffed, but Augustus continued. "Look at these clocks. Each shows a different time, yet all exist simultaneously. Your future selves exist just as surely as you do now. The only question is, which version will you align with?" That night, Roger experimented with Augustus's teaching. Instead of waiting to become a renowned author, he began writing as though he already was one. His articles transformed, infused with the confidence of his future self. Within weeks, his words caught the attention of publishers who had previously ignored him. This same principle manifested through Helen Morrison, a nurse in Chicago's Mercy Hospital in 1945. After a devastating accident left her unable to walk, doctors predicted years of recovery. But Helen discovered something extraordinary. Each night she would close her eyes and step into the reality where she was already healed. She felt the strength in her legs, the grace in her movements, the joy of dancing. She brought that future self into her present moment, allowing it to guide her actions and decisions. Her recovery defied medical expectations. What should have taken years manifested in months. The doctors called it a miracle, but Helen understood the truth. She had simply collapsed time by aligning with her desired reality. You see, time is not fixed, it is fluid, responsive to your consciousness. When you truly understand this, you realize that waiting is an illusion. The future you desire already exists, waiting for you to step into it. The ancient practice of timeline collapse. Choose a future reality you wish to experience. Close your eyes and step into it fully. Feel the sensations, emotions, and certainty of already being there. Let your future self inform your present choices. Move through your day not as someone hoping to achieve this reality, but as someone who already embodies it. For the next day, live from this future point. Make decisions as your future self would make them. Speak as they would speak. Move as they would move. You are not pretending. You are aligning with a version of reality that already exists. Part 3. Mastering the Codes of Creation. Chapter 21. The Art of Letting Go. Why Chasing Repels What You Want. In the autumn of 1924, Samuel Henderson trudged door to door through rain-slicked streets, his leather briefcase heavy with unsold wares. Each rejection carved deeper lines of desperation into his face. The more frantically he pursued success, the more it seemed to slip through his fingers like morning mist. You see, Samuel embodied a universal truth that touches every soul who has ever yearned too desperately for something. What you chase with desperation inevitably runs faster in the opposite direction. One evening, exhausted and drenched, Samuel found shelter in a small cafe. There, an elderly gentleman observed his defeated posture and shared a simple truth. The universe operates in paradox. The tighter you grasp, the less you hold. That night, Samuel did something radical. He surrendered. He released his death grip on success and simply focused on serving others with genuine care. Within weeks, his sales doubled, then tripled. When he stopped chasing, success began chasing him. This same principle revealed itself through Rose Matthews in 1943. After losing her husband in the war, Rose clutched desperately at the idea of finding love again. She pursued every possibility, joined every social gathering, yet found only emptiness. One spring morning, while tending her garden, Rose had an epiphany. She realized that her desperate search for love was born of fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of never finding connection again. In that moment, she surrendered completely to her present reality. She released her grip on the future she thought she needed. That very surrender created space for the unexpected. Love found her in the form of letters from her late husband's best friend, who shared stories that helped her heal. Their correspondence blossomed into something neither had anticipated, something far more beautiful than what Rose had been forcing herself to find. The sacred truth. The universe operates through paradox. What you chase, you repel. What you release returns to you multiplied. This is not mere philosophy. It is a fundamental law of reality. The ancient practice of sacred surrender. Choose one area of your life where you have been grasping too tightly. Perhaps it's a relationship, a financial goal, or a dream that feels just out of reach. For the next 7 days, practice complete surrender. Release your mental grip on the outcome. Focus instead on being fully present, trusting that the universe's plan exceeds your highest expectations. Notice how, as you loosen your grip, what you desire begins flowing towards you naturally, effortlessly, in ways you could never have planned. Like water finding its path downhill, or a flower turning toward the sun, your deepest desires know the way home. The universe responds not to your striving, but to your allowing. In this sacred space of surrender, miracles unfold with a grace that your logical mind could never orchestrate. Chapter 22. Reality Transmutation. Turning Obstacles into Power. In the depths of Pennsylvania's coal mines, Frederick Miller spent his days in darkness, cursing the black dust that coated his lungs and dimmed his spirit. Each morning, he descended into the earth with hatred in his heart, seeing only the burden of his circumstances. Yet within those shadowed tunnels, you too will find the seed of an extraordinary truth, one that transformed Frederick's life and holds the power to transform yours. One day, while examining a piece of coal, Frederick experienced a revelation that would alter his perception forever. This common black rock, formed under immense pressure over countless years, contained within it the potential to become a diamond. In that moment, he understood. Pressure is not punishment. It is the force of transformation. From that day forward, Frederick approached each challenge differently. The weight of the work became the pressure needed for his own transformation. The darkness of the mind became the sacred space of his metamorphosis. Within months, his shifted perspective led him to innovations in mining safety that elevated him to a leadership position. This same principle manifested in the life of Edith Warner, a painter in 1944, who faced constant rejection from galleries. Each no felt like a personal assault on her dreams. Until one rain-soaked evening, standing before her collection of rejected works, she realized these weren't failures. They were raw material for something greater. Edith began incorporating the very rejection letters into her paintings, transforming them into powerful mixed-media pieces that spoke to the human experience of perseverance. The energy of rejection became the fuel for innovation. Within a year, these unique works attracted the attention of major galleries, creating a success far beyond her original vision. The universal truth reveals itself. What appears as an obstacle is actually concentrated potential. Every challenge you face contains within it the exact energy needed for your elevation. The pressure that feels like it might break you is precisely what can transform you. The ancient practice of energy alchemy. Select one current challenge in your life, a situation that feels heavy, difficult, or impossible. For the next 3 days, view it not as a problem to solve, but as pure energy waiting to be transmuted. Write down exactly how this pressure could be redirected to create something greater. What diamond is this coal becoming? What masterpiece is this rejection inspiring? Feel the shift as you stop resisting the pressure and start using it as fuel for your transformation. Watch as the very force that seemed to oppose you becomes the power that propels you forward. Chapter 23. The Parallel Reality Principle. Choosing instead of waiting. In the rolling hills of Nebraska, George Anderson stood at the edge of his untilled field, waiting for signs from nature that the time was right to plant. Day after day he studied the sky, tested the soil, and consulted the almanac. Yet something always seemed less than perfect. You see, George embodied a universal tendency, the belief that external conditions must align before action can be taken. But within his story lies a truth that will transform your understanding of reality creation. One morning, as George watched his neighbor Thomas confidently planting his fields despite questionable conditions, he witnessed something remarkable. Over the following weeks, Thomas's bold actions seemed to command the very elements themselves. The rain came when needed, the sun shone at crucial moments, and his crops flourished while others waited for the perfect time. This revelation shattered George's perception. He realized that Thomas wasn't succeeding because conditions were perfect. Conditions became perfect because he decided to succeed. This same principle manifested through Martha Williams, who owned a modest hotel in 1943. During a time when most businesses were scaling back, Martha made an audacious decision. Instead of waiting for economic conditions to improve, she began renovating her hotel as if prosperity was already present. She didn't wait for guests to arrive before improving their experience. She created the experience that would attract them. The universe responded to her decisive action. As she transformed her hotel, circumstances mysteriously aligned. A military training facility opened nearby, bringing a steady stream of guests. A famous writer chose her hotel as a temporary residence, attracting more visitors. Her reality shifted not because she waited for the right moment, but because she created it through decision. The universal truth becomes clear. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. Circumstances are at the mercy of your decisions. Every moment contains infinite parallel realities, each waiting to be activated by your choice. The ancient practice of reality selection identify one area where you've been waiting for perfect conditions. Now make the decision you've been postponing, acting as if your desired reality is already unfolding. Write down your commitment and take one tangible step today, no matter how small, that demonstrates your decision. Remember, the universe doesn't respond to your hopes or wishes, it responds to your decisions. By choosing now, you collapse infinite possibilities into your chosen reality. In this sacred moment of choice, you become the architect of your destiny, wielding the divine power that has always resided within you. Each decision acts as a command to the cosmic forces, directing the flow of universal energy toward your intended path. When you truly decide, the very fabric of reality begins to reshape itself around your unwavering choice. Chapter 24. The Gateway to Limitless Possibility, Breaking the Final Mental Chains. In the cold halls of Blackstone Penitentiary, Jonathan Maxwell walked his daily rounds, observing men confined by iron and stone. Yet one morning, as he watched a group of free guards mechanically performing their duties, he witnessed a profound truth. They too were imprisoned, though their cells were invisible. You see, Jonathan began noticing how these free men limited themselves just as surely as the steel bars contained their charges. They spoke of dreams they couldn't pursue, opportunities they weren't qualified for, and lives they weren't meant to live. Then came the day when Thomas Reed, a former inmate known for his escape attempts, returned as a changed man, not to be imprisoned, but to give a talk to the prisoners. "The bars," he said, "were never my true prison. My mind was. Once I broke free in here," he tapped his temple, "the physical escape became unnecessary." This truth echoes through the story of Harriet Collins, who operated the same machine in the Wilson manufacturing plant for 15 years. Each day, she would stare through the factory windows at the world beyond, believing that someone of her station couldn't aspire to more, until one morning, while reading about a former factory worker who had become a successful business owner, something within her shifted. The limitation she had accepted as truth revealed itself as merely a thought, one she could choose to think differently. That very day, Harriet began acting as though the boundary between her world and their world didn't exist. She walked into the bank she'd always felt too common to enter and inquired about a small business loan. She spoke to customers at the factory about their needs, gathering market insights. Within months, she had started her own company supplying specialized parts to the very factory where she once felt confined. The ancient practice of liberation. Take a moment now to identify the final mental barrier you believe is holding you back. Perhaps it's a belief about what's possible for someone of your background, age, or circumstances. Write it down clearly. Now for the next 24 hours, act as though this limitation never existed. Move through your world as if this boundary was merely an illusion that is now dissolved. Take one action, no matter how small, that your limited self would have considered impossible. This practice isn't about positive thinking, it's about recognizing that the prison of limitation exists only in thought. When you step beyond your final mental barrier, you'll discover what Jonathan and Harriet learned. Freedom isn't something you achieve, it's something you realize you've always had. Chapter 25. The Activation Code, Rewriting Your Reality in an Instant. In the dimly lit telegraph office on Maple Street, Thomas Morrison's fingers danced across the brass key, sending messages through the night. For 15 years he had transmitted countless stories of triumph and tragedy, never realizing that his own thoughts were broadcasting with even greater power than the electrical signals he sent across the wires. One night, as rain pelted against the windows, an unusual message came through. The dots and dashes spelled out, "You are transmitting right now. Your thoughts are shaping reality in real time. Are you conscious of what you're sending?" Thomas dismissed it as nonsense, but the message continued, "Watch closely. In the next moment, you will receive proof." Seconds later, a wealthy businessman walked in, something that had never happened at this late hour, requesting to send an urgent telegraph. As the man described his message, Thomas realized it matched, word for word, the anxious thoughts he'd been having about his own financial situation. This truth rings equally clear in Helen Bennett's transformation. Her small bookstore had sat quietly on the corner of 4th and Pine for 7 years, barely noticed by passers-by. One evening, after reading a mysterious book about reality creation, Helen made a decisive shift. Instead of seeing herself as the struggling bookstore owner, she fully embodied the identity of a successful literary curator whose shop was the heart of the community. The change was instant and absolute. There was no waiting, no gradual transition. The moment Helen locked into this new frequency, reality bent to match it. The very next morning, a local newspaper reporter walked in asking to feature her store. By afternoon, 3 reading clubs had requested to host their meetings there. Within days, her once empty shop hummed with energy and purpose. You see, the universe operates like Thomas's telegraph system, transmitting and receiving in real time. There is no delay between your internal shift and external reality. When you truly embody a new state of being, the world must reorganize itself accordingly. Most people believe in gradual change, but this is an illusion. Reality transforms the instant you activate a new frequency. The ancient practice of activation. Choose one aspect of your life you wish to transform. Rather than hoping, wishing, or working toward it, you will make an absolute decision to embody that reality now. For the next 24 hours, move through your world as if this new identity is already fully activated. Notice how quickly the external world begins to reflect your internal shift. Remember, you are always broadcasting your frequency into the universe, sending ripples through the infinite field of possibility. The only question is, are you transmitting consciously or unconsciously? Like a radio tower perpetually emitting signals into the ethers, your thoughts and feelings create waves that shape the fabric of your reality. When you understand this profound truth, you realize the paramount importance of maintaining awareness over the frequency you choose to embody. Chapter 26. The Flow State, Living in Perpetual Synchronicity. In the early hours of a crisp autumn morning, Albert Matthews stood at his usual post, pocket watch in hand, ready to guide the 7:15 express from Chicago to New York along its predetermined path. For 12 years he had lived by the timetable, finding comfort in its predictable rhythm. Yet on this particular morning, something unusual stirred in the air. A fallen tree blocked the main track, forcing Albert to choose between waiting for clearance or taking an alternate route through unfamiliar territory. Against his nature, he chose the unknown path. What unfolded next would transform his understanding of life itself. As the train wound through unexpected landscapes, Albert noticed something remarkable. Every random delay led to a perfect moment. A stop at an unscheduled station allowed a desperate mother to reunite with her child. A slower pace through an unknown valley prevented a potential accident ahead. What seemed like disruptions were actually orchestrating a perfect symphony of events. This truth echoes in the story of Dorothy Williams, whose nightly performances at the Grand Palace Theater in 1944 had become mechanical and lifeless. She had choreographed every gesture, planned every smile, until one evening when the stage lights malfunctioned. In that moment of darkness, Dorothy let go. Instead of following her rigid routine, she allowed herself to flow with the music. The audience witnessed something extraordinary, a performance so authentic and alive that it brought tears to their eyes. The universe operates in perfect orchestration, but your attempts to control its flow create resistance. When Albert surrendered to the alternate route, he discovered a better way. When Dorothy released her grip on perfection, she found it naturally. This is the paradox of flow. The less you force, the more grace enters your life. Consider how often you resist the natural current of life, attempting to bend it to your will. Yet the moment you surrender to its flow, you enter a state of effortless creation where synchronicities become your new normal. Like a leaf carried by a stream, you move precisely where you need to be. The ancient practice of flow. Tomorrow you will conduct an experiment in surrender. From the moment you wake, release all rigid plans and expectations. Instead, move through your day following subtle intuitive nudges. When faced with choices, pause and feel which direction carries the most resonance. Trust that the universe is orchestrating events in your favor and watch as synchronicities unfold. Notice how life flows more smoothly when you stop forcing your way through it. Chapter 27. The Art of Non-Resistance, Why Letting Go Speeds Everything Up. In the dimly lit gymnasium of Chicago's South Side, Jameson Porter stood before his reflection, his fists raised against an invisible opponent. Night after night he had trained until his knuckles bled, believing that victory came through force of will alone. Yet with each match, he found himself more exhausted, more defeated. One evening, as rain drummed against the tin roof, an old trainer named Solomon watched Jameson's relentless assault on the heavy bag. "You're fighting the wrong battle," Solomon said softly. "The secret isn't in opposing force with force, it's in turning your opponent's strength into your advantage." Through Solomon's guidance, Jameson discovered a profound truth. Resistance only strengthens what you resist. When he learned to flow with his opponent's energy instead of fighting against it, everything changed. His movements became effortless, his victories natural. This same principle revealed itself in the life of Mildred Thompson, a seamstress raising 3 children alone in 1944. Each month brought mounting bills and growing anxiety. The more she fought against her circumstances, the tighter they gripped her. One morning, while mending a torn dress, Mildred had an insight. Just as thread must flow through fabric without resistance to create something beautiful, perhaps her life required the same approach. Instead of fighting her financial situation, she began to embrace it with a strange gratitude, trusting that everything was working in her favor. Within weeks, her perspective shift created ripples in reality. A client mentioned her skill to a theater company. A chance encounter led to a position designing costumes. What had seemed like insurmountable obstacles dissolved the moment she stopped resisting them. The ancient practice of surrender. Choose one area of your life where you feel the most resistance. Perhaps it's a relationship, a financial situation, or a personal challenge. For the next 3 days, practice complete surrender. Instead of fighting against what is, embrace it fully. Say to yourself, "I trust that this situation is working in my favor." Notice how your reality begins to shift the moment you release resistance. Chapter 28. The Infinite Loop. Living as your future self now. In a small workshop in Hartford, Connecticut, William Matthews stood transfixed before his collection of timepieces. Each morning he wound them with precision, yet lately something peculiar had caught his attention. Time wasn't flowing as it should. Moments from what felt like the future would ripple into his present awareness. One autumn morning, while adjusting the gears of a grandfather clock, William experienced something extraordinary. He saw himself clear as day, receiving an award for his innovative clockwork designs. The vision felt more real than a dream. It carried the weight of truth. In that moment, he understood. This future wasn't merely possible, it was already existing, waiting for him to step into it. Instead of dismissing the experience, William made a bold decision. He began conducting himself as if he were already that celebrated craftsman. He reorganized his workshop, started keeping meticulous design journals, and approached each timepiece with the dedication of a master. Within weeks, his work transformed, and opportunities he couldn't have imagined began manifesting. You find a similar truth in the story of Beatrice Collins, who lived in a modest apartment in Brooklyn during the 1940s. She had spent years dreaming of becoming a novelist, collecting rejection letters while working as a typist. One evening, sitting at her cramped desk, she had an epiphany. She was waiting to become something she already was. The next morning, Beatrice transformed her daily routine. She arranged her schedule as if she were already a successful author. She wrote at dawn, took afternoon walks to gather inspiration, and maintained correspondence with other writers. She stopped introducing herself as a typist who wanted to write. She simply became a writer. The shift was immediate and profound. Her words flowed with new confidence. An editor who had previously rejected her work requested to see more. Within months, her first novel was accepted for publication, The Ancient Practice of Timeline Collapse. Take a moment now to connect with your future self, the version of you who has already achieved what you desire. Write in precise detail how this future self moves through their day. What time do they wake? How do they carry themselves? What decisions do they make? What energy do they embody? Once you have captured this clearly, commit to living as this version of yourself for the next 24 hours. Don't wait to become this person. Be them now. Let every action, every word, every choice flow from this elevated identity. Watch as reality begins to bend around your new way of being. This is not imagination. It is the activation of a timeline that already exists. You are not creating your future. You are choosing which version of yourself to be in this moment. Chapter 29. The Mirror Exercise: How to Test Reality in Real Time. In the bustling streets of Chicago, Harold Davis performed his magic shows with practiced precision. Yet beneath the surface of his carefully orchestrated illusions lay a deeper understanding, one that would transform your perception of reality itself. As crowds gathered to watch his performances, Harold began to notice something extraordinary. When he directed the audience's attention to his right hand, they became completely blind to the actions of his left. This simple observation led him to a profound realization. Reality itself operates on the same principle. What manifests in your world depends entirely on where you place your focus and how you feel within. One winter evening, exhausted from a string of lackluster performances, Harold decided to test this theory. Instead of trying to change his external circumstances, he shifted something within himself, his sense of mastery. He didn't just act confident, he embodied the feeling of being a master of his craft. Within minutes, the energy of his audience changed. They leaned in, captivated. Tips flowed more freely. The very same tricks that had fallen flat hours before now drew gasps of amazement. This principle revealed itself again through Irene Mitchell, a struggling fashion designer in Manhattan during the 1940s. After years of fighting for recognition, she discovered the same truth Harold had. The world responds not to what you do, but to who you are being. One morning, before an important buyer's meeting, Irene decided to conduct her own experiment. Instead of hoping for approval, she shifted her internal state to one of absolute certainty in her talent. She didn't just think confident thoughts, she allowed herself to feel the truth of her artistic genius in every cell of her body. The transformation was immediate. The buyers who had previously dismissed her now hung on every word. Designs they had rejected weeks before were suddenly exactly what they were looking for. Within hours, Her entire reality shifted to match her new internal state. The ancient practice of state shifting. Choose one internal state you wish to embody: confidence, abundance, peace, or mastery. Don't try to think your way into this state. Instead, allow yourself to feel it fully, as if it were already true. Let this feeling permeate your entire being. For the next 3 hours, maintain this shifted state. Notice how people respond to you differently. Watch how circumstances rearrange themselves to match your new frequency. Pay attention to the synchronicities that begin to appear. This is not a metaphor or visualization. It is a direct demonstration of how reality responds to your inner state. The external world has no choice but to reflect back what you embody within. Chapter 30. The Mind of the Divine, Becoming a Conscious Co-Creator. In the dimly lit halls of Vienna's most prestigious chess club, Philip Steiner sat before the board, his fingers hovering over a knight. But this moment would reveal far more than just his next move. It would unveil the hidden mechanism behind all of creation. As you discover through Philip's revelation, reality operates precisely like a chess game. Most players react to the moves before them, but true masters see further. They don't just respond to what is, they orchestrate what will be. Through years of observation, Philip noticed that his most brilliant victories came not from reacting to his opponent's strategy, but from deciding the game's outcome before the first piece moved. This same principle manifested in the quiet greenhouse where Margaret Wells conducted her botanical research in 1944. After years of methodically documenting plant behaviors, she experienced a profound shift in understanding. The plants weren't simply responding to their environment, they were engaging in a dance of co-creation with it. One morning, rather than following standard experimental protocols, Margaret tried something different. She began treating her work not as observation, but as collaboration. She spoke to her specimens not as subjects, but as partners in creation. Within weeks, her plants exhibited growth patterns that defied conventional science. Her colleagues called it luck. But you now understand what Margaret had discovered. She wasn't waiting for results, she was orchestrating them. The ancient truth reveals itself. You are not a passive observer in the grand game of life. You are the grand master, the co-creator, the one who moves first. The universe doesn't send you signs. You send signals to the universe and it must respond. The sacred insight emerges. Reality is not happening to you. It is happening through you. Every circumstance, every event, every encounter is not random chance, but a move on the cosmic chessboard, one that you have the power to direct. The ritual of co-creation. Choose one situation in your life where you've been waiting for an outcome. Instead of reacting to what is, decide now how you want it to unfold. Write down your desired result with absolute clarity. Then, like a grandmaster seeing the end game, live from that decision. Move through your day not as one hoping for this outcome, but as one who has already orchestrated it. Watch as the pieces of reality rearrange themselves to match your declaration. This is not mere visualization or positive thinking. It is you stepping fully into your role as conscious co-creator of reality, claiming your divine birthright to shape the world around you. The universe, bound by sacred laws older than time itself, has no choice but to respond to your move, to align its infinite forces with the future you have chosen. Just as a master painter does not hope the colors will form an image but decisively applies each stroke, you too must act with unwavering certainty in your creative power. If you enjoyed this audiobook, I created a free ebook version for you. You can download it using the link in the pinned comment. Conclusion. In these sacred pages, you have traversed the path from seeker to master. What began as a journey to understand the law of attraction has culminated in something far more profound, the recognition of your true nature as the source of all creation. You now stand at the threshold of ultimate understanding. The search ends here, not because there is nothing left to discover, but because you have awakened to the fundamental truth. You are not separate from the universe. You are its conscious expression. Look around you. Every circumstance, every person, every moment of synchronicity, none of it is happening to you. It is emerging through you, as you, from the infinite field of possibilities that you are. The world you see is not external. It is the materialization of your consciousness made manifest. You no longer need to attract or manifest, for these concepts imply separation between you and your desires. In truth, there is only one power, one presence, one reality, and you are it. Your desires are not distant dreams to be achieved. They are aspects of yourself waiting to be recognized and expressed. This is mastery, moving through life not as one who seeks, but as one who knows. When you truly understand this, reality shifts not because you make it happen, but because it cannot do otherwise. Just as the sun does not try to shine, it simply is radiance itself. You do not need to effort or strain. Your very presence transforms the world around you. From this moment forward, you walk the earth as a conscious creator. No more techniques are needed, no more waiting for the right moment. The power you sought was never outside you. It was the very essence of your being. You are the lighthouse, and all of existence naturally aligns with your light. This is not the end of your journey, it is the beginning of true living. Each moment becomes a canvas for your creative expression, each breath an affirmation of your divine nature. The universe does not bend to your will, it bends to your being, for you are the universe becoming aware of itself. Step forth now in full recognition of who you are. Let go of seeking, of trying, of becoming. You have always been what you sought. The only thing that changes now is your awareness of this eternal truth. If you enjoyed this exclusive audiobook, I handpicked this next book which will change your life.